What's the funniest instant payback you've ever witnessed on a flight? I was 20 at the time, a junior in college, and this story happened on what was supposed to be a relaxing trip home. My friend and I had just spent a long weekend in Florida visiting her brother and going to the Universal Studios Fright Night Halloween event. It was incredible. The lights, the actors, the atmosphere, the kind of thing you remember for years. We were both exhausted, but happy, ready to fly back home on Sunday night. It was only my second time flying. Growing up, we didn't have money for vacations, so even sitting in my small coach seat felt like a luxury. I was excited, quietly smiling to myself as we waited for takeoff, except we didn't take off. After half an hour, the attendant started walking up and down the aisle, speaking quietly with a few passengers. Then, one by one, people began leaving the plane. It turned out there was a serious problem with the aircraft. The flight attendants were trying to rebook passengers who had connecting flights so they wouldn't miss them. Eventually, the rest of us were told to disembark too. That's when I first noticed him. A man in his mid-50s, red-faced and already complaining before we'd even made it back into the gate area. He stormed ahead of everyone, barking at the attendants about how unacceptable this delay was and demanding that they fix it immediately. His poor wife stood beside him, clutching her bag, saying nothing. He kept repeating the same thing. You better get me the same seats I had on that plane. Turns out, he and his wife had been seated in the first row of coach, the one with extra legroom but still technically not first class. The attendants handled him with incredible patience. They explained that everyone would be rebooked as soon as possible and that the new flight was leaving shortly. He talked over them the entire time, demanding proper treatment. Meanwhile, the rest of us, about 6 other passengers, just stood by quietly, trying not to roll our eyes too obviously. After about 20 minutes, the attendants came back with new boarding passes. The loud man practically lunged toward them. One of the attendants smiled sweetly and said, "Sir, I'm happy to tell you that we've placed you and your wife in the exact same seats as your original flight." He smirked, straightened his shirt and said, "Well, that's the least you could do." Then he sat down, satisfied, muttering something about how people needed to learn respect. The attendant then turned to the rest of us and said cheerfully, "And for everyone else, we've upgraded you to first class for the inconvenience." I swear, time froze for a second. My friend and I just stared at each other in disbelief. First class? Us? I'd never even seen it before, except in movies. The angry man's face twisted as he realized what was happening. He shot up from his seat, demanding an explanation, but the attendant just smiled politely and said, "You asked for the exact same seats, sir. We honored your request." Then she walked away, leaving him sputtering. A few minutes later, we boarded the new plane. When I stepped into first class, it was like another world. Massive leather seats, soft lighting, actual tablecloths, and the friendliest flight attendants I'd ever met. I sat down, trying to act like I belonged, while secretly grinning like a kid at Christmas. They handed us hot towels, real glass cups, and even offered wine, though we were underage, so we settled for fancy juice instead. Then came the meal. Not a plastic tray or paper napkin in sight. Real plates, real metal cutlery, and the best pasta I'd ever had on a plane. From my seat in the last row of first class, I could still hear the rude man's voice from the other side of the curtain. He was going on and on, complaining to the attendants about how those kids didn't deserve first class and how it should have gone to someone older. The irony was delicious. At one point, our first class attendant overheard him through the curtain. He looked at us, shook his head slightly and said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of that for you." Then he reached up and, with a gentle whoosh, pulled the curtain shut. That was the last glimpse I had of the man, his face still red, his mouth still moving as the curtain closed between us. My friend and I just sat there in stunned silence for a few seconds, then burst out laughing. For the rest of the flight, we relaxed in luxury, sipping our drinks and nibbling cookies from a basket labeled Distinctive Pepperidge Farm Selection. I couldn't stop smiling. The air felt lighter. The whole cabin seemed to hum with quiet satisfaction, and every now and then, I'd think back to the man demanding his exact same seats. He got exactly what he asked for, and it couldn't have been more perfect.